And that is the Iran nuclear deal. President Trump is planning to announce next week that Tehran has not been compliant with the 2015 international agreement, according to the Wall Street Journal this morning. The speech is also expected to lay out a larger strategy for Iran, the #1 state sponsor of terrorism. During a meeting with military officials at the White House yesterday, the commander-in-chief voiced concerns over this landmark deal.
We must not allow Iran to obtain nuclear weapons. The Iranian regime supports terrorism and exports violence, bloodshed, and chaos across the Middle East. That is why we must put an end to Iran's continued aggression and nuclear ambitions. They have not lived up to the spirit of their agreement.
And, of course, that agreement was made under the Obama administration. But the president says the deal is not in the national interest of the United States. Joining me right now is Fox News military analyst, General Jack Keane. And, General, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you agree with that this deal is not in the best interest of the United States?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been said commentary that this was the defining foreign policy objective of the Obama administration. It defined everything that they were doing, and it helped to destabilize the Middle East because what they wanted to do was appease the Iranians at the expense of our allies. And it left the president in a tough situation. Just so our viewers understand, not covered in the deal is the use of ballistic missiles and developing ICBMs, the purpose of which is to deliver a nuclear weapon. Not covered in the deal is access to all of their military bases. Can you imagine that? We know that these guys cheat, but we have no access to their military bases where they could be cheating. And not covered in the deal is their adverse behavior throughout the region.
How is it possible that none of those things are covered in this deal?
Because every time Kerry brought it up, Secretary Kerry, that is, the Iranians threatened to walk off and not discuss it. They said, that's not part of the deal. We want to confine it to just nuclear weapons. They threatened walking away.
And why do we care if they walk away?
We should have walked away and increased the sanctions.
That's incredible. The president yesterday fired off a bit of an ominous warning when he was at the White House during last night's meeting with his military officials. Listen to this.
You guys know what this represents? Well, maybe it's the calm before the storm.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Oh my God. The calm before the storm. We'll find out what the storm is, General. What do you think he meant by that?
Well, I think a couple of things. One, it's likely, like you suggest, that he's going to decertify. And what that means, so our audience understands, is that has nothing to do with the actual nuclear deal itself. That is the Congress's concern. When the deal was formed, they wanted to check on it every 90 days because they had problems with the Iranians. So it's U.S. legislation that he's compliant with every 90 days. Likely to come say, we don't believe Iran is in compliance for a couple of reasons. One, although the IAEA says they are, they're going to say, one, they're still developing military ballistic missiles. And what's the purpose of that? Nuclear weapons on them, of course. Number two is we don't have access to their military bases. And then I think what he's going to do is lay out a comprehensive strategy to deal with Iran. He believes Iran is the #1 strategic threat in the region. He said that to the 55 heads of states when he met in Riyadh a few months ago and told them this is the strategic threat. I will stand with you against that threat. No president has ever made a statement like that and made it to the heads of state in the region who do feel threatened by Iran.
Wow. So what's the difference between saying they're not certified, they are not compliant, so I want to decertify this, to pulling out of the deal?
So what happened then is the Congress, he's actually laddering the football to the Congress. So they have a choice. If they want to impose sanctions on Iran as a result of the president not certifying them, then that would break the deal, because then the United States would not be in compliance. And the reason for that is the IAEA is saying you are certified. We're saying not, and we're imposing sanctions. I think what the president's advisors are telling the Congress, you don't have to impose sanctions. Let the deal ride. And what we're going to do is announce a comprehensive strategy against Iran, use it as leverage to make some changes to this deal, fix the fact that in 10 years they can enrich uranium and spin centrifuges and get on a path to nuclear weapons, which is an absolute absurdity. The very thing that the deal is supposed to prevent, it permits.
Do we have to have agreement with the other countries in this? I mean, every time, we bring this subject up, people who are skeptics of the Trump administration's plan say, look, it's not just the U.S. You've got the other world leaders, 5 world leaders in this deal. Do we need some agreement there with them?
Yeah, there's the 5 nations in the UN and National Security Council, and there's also Germany. Yes, none of them want us to get out of the deal, but also France and some of the others, they have problems with it, but they don't want us to leave. I think they will support the president's decision not to certify, to use leverage against the Iranians, to develop a comprehensive strategy to push back on the Iranians and see if we can improve on the deal.
Yeah, okay. Meanwhile, there's Iran, then there's North Korea. I mean, when you look at the axis of evil, right? Researchers at a California university have been studying Pyongyang's propaganda photos and the videos that this is all propaganda to track the regime's nuclear weapons program. Now they're warning that North Korea has the ability to develop an intercontinental ballistic missile that could hit New York. General, what's your take on this?
Well, I think they are doing, with very advanced photography, 3D, et cetera, and
oh, really?
Very good analysts themselves, exactly what our intelligence services are doing and have been saying to us. They say that North Korea does have an ICBM capability, that it can reach the United States. What's not knowable is, have they miniaturized a nuclear weapon, and have they been able to put a missile up into space and then re-enter it into the Earth's atmosphere successfully? The fact that they are where they are already, in terms of the sophistication of a solid fuel nuclear, an ICBM capable of reaching the United States, that is a marvelous achievement on their part. So we've got to assume that they're going to get this full capability, and that's why the Trump team is so concerned about it, and why they're absolutely committed not to let it happen.
So how will they not let it happen? I mean, they'll just take down any missiles that they see. We're constantly, surveying what's going on in that region. What
their main effort is the diplomatic effort, using the economic stranglehold. All the countries stop trading with North Korea. China shut down your currency and your banks that'll take some time, and that's what Kim Jong-un is doing. He's racing against that clock because he wants to get this capability. He believes the United States will accept it once he has it, and it'll take probably about a year for those sanctions to truly kick in. But that's the path we're on. I believe it's the right path, and hopefully we don't have to use some kind of military option here, but he could force us to do it.
Dangerous times, General. Good to see you. Thank
you
so much.
Good talking to you, Maria.
It's always a pleasure to hear your insights. We appreciate your time. General Jack Keane.